Hello. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Welcome. We are so thrilled to have you joining us for our panel, Inside the Top Purpose-Driven Companies in 2024. For all of you who have joined us, I'd love if you go and take a moment and just introduce yourself in the chat. Let us know where you're joining from. We'd really love to see which cities are tuning in. And you can do that via the chats on either LinkedIn or YouTube. While you're introducing yourself, I'll go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Hannah, and I'm your moderator and a member of the Purpose Jobs team. We are your hosts for today. If you are unfamiliar, Purpose Jobs is your go-to purpose-driven startup and tech storyteller and community builder, serving emerging markets across the United States. A few housekeeping items before we dive in. First and foremost, and pretty much the only request is just to use the chat. We really love to see you engaging with the conversation. It gets us very excited, and it gets the rest of the audience excited as well. So again, you can do that by jumping over to LinkedIn or YouTube. So if you are viewing on our website, don't be afraid to pop over to one of those sites. And go ahead and start. Let us know where you're joining from and who you are, and we'd love to have you engage in that way. Throughout the conversation, don't be afraid to chime in if we say something that really resonates with you, or chime in with your own advice as well. We're not going to be the only experts here today, so we'd love to hear any of the thoughts that you have as well. And we really encourage you to post your questions throughout the conversation. I'll really work to incorporate those throughout the chat rather than holding them to the end if possible. With all of that covered, we will now start to dig into today's topic. So, as we all are job seeking or just trying to keep in tune with the startup and tech industry, it can sometimes be hard to kind of know what new organizations are out there, especially when a company is in those early stages. They might not have a lot of press or be flying a little under the radar. And Purpose Jobs really loves to help fill that void with stories of purpose-driven companies across the nation. And our Top Companies to Watch award is one of the key ways that we do that. And we're so excited to have a few recipients of that award here with us today. They're going to be giving us some great insight into their own organizations, as well as speaking to how other companies can work to become top companies to watch as well. So a huge special shout out and thank you to our panelists for taking time out of their day. And again, a thank you to all of you for tuning in with us. We're really excited to be here and to have you as part of the community. So without further ado, we will dive into introductions for our panelists. So for our panelists, I'd love if you can just share your name, a brief background, and why you're excited to be here for today's conversation. Alex, do you want to go first for us?
That's me, Alex. Yeah, so good to be here, and thanks for introducing me, Hannah. I'm Alex Simmons. I'm the co-founder and CEO at Boon, which is a personalized one-to-one coaching platform for employees. And we see ourselves as kind of bridging the gap between mental health and professional development, really serving as that one-stop personal and professional growth tool for employees. We're working with about 100 companies across the country today, and we have roughly 200 coaches that are on our platform. And I think why I'm really excited is because our model, what's core to our business model today is personal and professional growth, which ties and is very interwoven into the idea of being a mission-driven company, purpose-driven company. So we've been doing a lot of work with Purpose Jobs over the last few years, and just excited to be here today and included in this list of top companies to watch.
Awesome. Thanks, Alex, so much. Julia, I will kick it over to you next.
Yeah, I'm Julia Kimmel. I am the VP of People here at Rocket Reach. Rocket Reach is a massive contact data provider and sourcing tool for many users, but used by over 19 million users in sales, marketing, recruiting, and a lot of others. We have grown a ton over the past few years. I've always been in the early stage startup world my entire career, and it's been a particular joy of mine to be here and work with the people that I work alongside here. So I'm excited to be here today because I really believe that having a sense of purpose, establishing a sense of purpose is really paramount to successfully building a business. And so the topic is near and dear.
Awesome. Love that, Julia. Alexandra, I'll kick it over to you to close out with intros.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so happy to be here and have this chat with all of you. I'm Alexandra. I've conceded the nickname of Alex to our friend on the call. But I lead people and culture here at Path Robotics. We are a autonomous welding robotics startup And what that means for those of you in more consumer facing products, what I like to say is we're attempting to add human level intelligence to off the shelf robots. So really cool problems using all the coolest technologies like AI and machine learning to traditional robotics to help the entire manufacturing industry. And when I think about our people and leading our people and building our culture, and when I talk to all of our amazing employees, the thing that I often hear as why they joined or why they stay at Path is they're here because of the mission, in addition to the amazing smart people. And so being awarded a top purpose-driven company was especially exciting for us. And that's how I know I'm in the right place and we're doing something awesome here at Path.
I love that. Thank you all. And love how we're already diving into the purpose-driven element and how that's so important. And also really excited for kind of the unique spaces that all of you work in. So yes, thank you for walking through introductions. So the first question that I want to dig into is just more high level. What are the elements that we think are really important when it comes to defining, what company is a top purpose-driven company to watch and what's not. So I would love to hear from you all. What are some of those elements? It doesn't necessarily have to be specific to your companies, but just in general, what are some of those important elements or factors when it comes to defining top companies? Julia, do you want to kick us off here?
Sure. I think for us, it's really about making sure that both our product and our people have a sense of purpose and impact. We want our team to feel united in the product's mission and to really genuinely feel that the product we're building, what our team is spending their time on, really has real purpose and impact on those using it. And the reach that we have with Rocket Reach, and really the amount of people that we impact positively, their day-to-day, their jobs, how productive they are, how they can get to focus on the really important things in their job, rather than some of the tasks that it takes to really find contact data and actually get in touch with people, can be incredibly time consuming. And I think that people really do feel how strong the value is that we provide people. There's a real purpose to it. And I think we also want our team internally to feel that their actual jobs have real purpose, that they have kind of an incredible amount of purpose in their work and that their work really matters, because it does. And so I think we go kind of the extra mile to make sure that goals and kind of growth that people really want to see, that's something that they get exposure to and that is available here. So we want it to exist both internally and for the product.
I love that, Julia. Thank you for sharing. Alexandra, I'll kick it over to you next.
Yeah, I think I echo a lot of what Julia said. I think you had some really great insights. I think what's unique for Path is just that we, I think, are kind of different than maybe some other traditional automation, and that a lot of our customers are feeling the pain of a labor shortage. And so I think that gives that really like aligns all of our people in the sense that a lot of our companies that we're supporting can't be successful unless we help them solve this labor shortage problem that they're facing. So I think that's given a lot of purpose to all of us when they're discussing with traditional manufacturers. A lot of people that work at Path have family in sort of the welding industry or in the manufacturing industry and kind of grew up kind of experiencing that pain point. So I think that's what's really cool, and just ultimately our vision. We have a very visionary CEO who is always speaking about not just like solving this one pain point, but just overall how in general we can become one of the largest robotics companies of all time. And I think that's just extremely motivating for all of our people.
I love that. Thank you so much, Alexandra. Alex, I'll kick it over to you.
Yeah, and I mean, I think hearing you guys, there's inspiring visions around being an automated robotics business versus a really cool SaaS platform. We're a personal professional growth. I feel like the thread in all of this is that it's management getting people inspired about a common mission, vision, and values across the organization. So, it doesn't really have to be an organization that is necessarily, solving the opioid epidemic or, solving the mental health crisis or whatever it may be, as long as you can have people who are bought into a shared mission, vision, and values. And every company has the opportunity to be purpose-driven in their own sort of way. And my previous background, I worked in finance. I'm a CPA by background. I worked in investment banking and private equity, and I think a lot of my need to want to move into a especially purpose-driven industry, being in the personal professional growth space, stems from a lot of that sort of work, where it's like, how do you get inspired about this sort of stuff? How do you get inspired about the work you're doing every day, and really have that shared vision across the business? So I think it starts at the top, and being able to really share that vision with your team.
Yeah, I love that, Alex. And I love that you're really pointing out that, purpose-driven can mean different things to different people. We have three very different industries here, and we all can kind of create that, as you said, kind of very, Alexandra, I think you were talking about your very visionary CEO, as long as we can really create this vision, feel really tied to the mission that's there, and that we're making an impact on those customers. That makes a huge impact there. So really love to hear all of that. I'd say outside of purpose-driven, would love to hear other thoughts, and I think on our end, when we're looking at who we want to receive this award, we're obviously considering purpose-driven. We're also considering things like more growth-focused revenue, new product launches, funding, acquisitions, things like that. So I think we're going to dive a little bit more into all of that as we continue through here. But I really love the emphasis that we already have on really that purpose-driven focus there. So yeah, with that, let's really start to dig into your companies a little bit more beyond this kind of purpose-driven focus, and talk a little bit more about growth. What are some of the reasons that beyond that purpose-driven piece that you all think that your companies were deserving of this year's purpose-driven award? So Alexandra, can I go to you first this time?
Yeah, sure. So I would say, when I think about growth, I really just think, we've definitely grown across a number of dimensions in terms of, I've been at Path for 3.5 years. We've grown in terms of employee headcount, in terms of facility space, in terms of capital, revenue, etc. But the thing that I enjoy thinking about and speaking about the most in terms of growth as it pertains to this conversation is really just like the growth of our leaders and just our people in general. We had first time founders, and just with that, as just a typical startup, and kind of even looping back to why the impact is so important as well, is just at a startup, people are working really hard. They're wearing a ton of different hats, and especially in Columbus, Ohio, where there aren't a lot of other startups, a lot of people weren't used to that. And so if you're not really connected to the mission and the impact that your company is going to have, it's a lot of work to just do. It's not just a 9-to-5 job here. So I think really just seeing the growth that our employees have had over the last few years is the most the thing that I'm the most excited about and the most proud of, is just how much we've seen our employees have to learn new skills, and our managers in particular just scale with the company, learn new skills, and support their people throughout kind of all the chaos that a startup can create. And so that's what I'm really excited about. And I'll have to check out Boon, because we're all about different types of coaching mechanisms. Obviously, as a people leader, I'm very bought into that. So excited to kind of hear more from you even throughout this conversation.
Oh, Hannah, I think you're on mute.
Perfect. Sorry about that.
No,
Thank you for calling that out, Alex. Yes, Alexander, thank you so much for highlighting that. And I love the focus on people, as people, is what makes all of the other stuff happen with grow as well. So love that. Alex, I'll pop it over to you next.
Yeah, and absolutely resonates everything you just said, Alexandra. And I think what has been really cool for me to see as a first-time founder, we launched Boon in May of 2020 in the heart of the pandemic. We're a completely bootstrapped company. And to see the way that our team has grown to 200 coaches today, and working with a global customer base, I've been really proud to see just the way the team has grown. But I think from the way that the business has evolved in terms of the value we're offering to the businesses we're working with, we're primarily working with HR leaders. And to see the impact that we're having on employees' lives, both personally and professionally, every day, seeing the testimonials that are coming through, it's very inspiring and keeps you very tied to that mission of the business. I think in terms of future growth, what we've really seen is that Boon has become the pulse on the organizations that we're working with. So we offer democratized coaching. 40 to 50% of the company raises their hand to work with a Boon coach. We're then all of a sudden able to come back to the HR leader and tell them, here are the primary pain points that your people are dealing with, whether it be more navigating difficult conversations in a remote environment, or how to lead upwards, how to receive feedback, how to deliver feedback, which is, we're hearing a lot of these similar themes around this millennial Gen Z generation that is in this remote hybrid workplace. They don't know how to have tough conversations. A lot of rapidly scaling businesses like Path Robotics, where they may have scaled really quickly, and people are getting promoted, and it's great. And how do you make sure all of these people are getting the training that they need to get to that next level, all that sort of stuff. So Boon has evolved into this pulse in the organization. What really excites me about the next phase of growth is, with everything that's happening in AI, we really feel like there's an opportunity to take that pulse to the next level and truly become that extension of the HR team or people team, in a way where you're able to get real-time insights and recommendations around, here are the biggest pain points, here's how you can solve that as a people leader, and really solve that real time and get insight into your business in a way that we feel like is really going to be dynamically changing in the next 3 to 5 years.
I love that. Thank you for walking through that, Alex. We're going to come back to the people element at some point. Yeah. Julia, I'll let you chime in on your end.
Yeah. No, I think like any startup, every year is a different phase and feels like an entirely different life cycle of the business. And I think this past year has been harder, like it has for a lot of companies in a down market. There's no doubt. And in our space specifically, in the data context space, it's become incredibly competitive. And we are not structured like a lot of startups where a lot of startups have venture backing and invest big amounts of money into growing their business, into taking more market share. And we're structured differently. We're bootstrapped and have really managed to grow ARR and remain really profitable. And that has meant we need to be incredibly intentional about what we invest in, how we prioritize what we build in the product, how we get creative and scrappy about how our teams drive revenue. And I think we've been able to just manage really well through tough times and less resources, and all while really maintaining our strong culture while having the pressure really heat up for the team. And it's a hard balance to strike. And I think that I'm proud of how effectively our team has been able to kind of manage through and kind of maintain and preserve a lot of the things that have made this such a great place to be for a while.
I love that. Thank you all for kind of walking through the kind of growth on your end of the companies as well. As you all kind of look to the next year, some of you started to preview that a little bit. Kind of curious, what are some of the goals and objectives that your organizations have? What are some of the strategies that you're going to put in place? What are maybe some areas that you're looking to grow in? Would love to hear some thoughts here. Alex, I'll kick it to you first this time.
Sure. Well, I think along the lines of pulse on the organization and what does that look like in a more robust way, I think a good example of that is, we're working with roughly a dozen marketing and advertising agencies today, and being able to actually not only get real-time insights and recommendations for one specific customer, but actually be able to gather data around trends that these like-size marketing and advertising agencies and their employees are dealing with cross-functionally across all levels of the organization, and start to really think about how powerful that data can become across our entire customer base. Mm-hmm. So we're working with several software and technology businesses. How do you think about that in that specific segment of the market, and what that data can tell us about how those companies are effectively growing their people? So I think there's a lot around that. And then the other thing for us is, our core business model today is democratized one-to-one coaching. So you're actually meeting with a coach via Zoom. We feel like there's a huge opportunity to really further personalize that coaching journey, where there is an element of AI potentially embedded into that coaching experience based on what the employees are working on. How can you really curate that experience beyond the one-on-one coaching experience itself? So I think for us, we view it through the customer lens. We feel like there's a huge opportunity to really enhance those insights we're giving them. And then on the employee end, and really delivering that value to the end user of the experience, we feel like there's going to be a ton more personalization embedded into the experience, and ultimately AI embedded into the experience as well. So those are the two big things that we're focused on right now.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing, Alex. Alexandra, I'll go to you next.
Yeah, so I would I would say as a business, we're really focusing 2024 on stabilizing profitability, a lot of product maturity, a lot of the themes that typical products go through in their journey, kind of as we're seeking product market fit. So I think just continuing to live into our vision and advance our technology and our product and ensure that it's scalable is kind of our sort of macro company goals. From a people perspective, the thing that I am most thinking about, which are really synonymous with a lot of the things that you just said, Alex, are really around sort of maintaining and stabilizing our culture in general from a people perspective. I think we have some of our OGs who have been here since the beginning. We say we have a culture of, I mean, one of our big values is persistence. People are working really hard, and obviously that's not going to sustain forever. So I think just, thinking about what matters most, how we can support our people the best, and stay true to our culture of still getting people to work really hard and stay focused on the mission, and feel the impact of their work, without burning anyone out. So I think just given we're a newer company and kind of experiencing kind of the ebbs and flows of the employee life cycle, just like really shifting our focus to more intentional culture, intentional retention strategies, coaching, development, and supporting our leaders through all of the change, given sort of the macroeconomic landscape and sort of everything that we're dealing with as a VC-backed startup, as Julia, you sort of alluded to not being, and just kind of, it's interesting to hear sort of the differences and just how we're each navigating that from our company perspective.
Awesome. Thanks, Alexandra. Really appreciate that. And love to see the kind of diversity of experiences as well. I think that's definitely really valuable for people to understand. Julia, I will let you close us out.
Yeah. I think, next year for us is really about becoming a product that is embedded in multiple parts of the workflow for people. You're seeing this happen everywhere in a lot of products. People want to buy less and be moving from app to app less. And I think our goal is to really make sure that we invest in the product in a way that achieves really kind of at least kind of 2 or 3 steps in the workflow. We have some ambitious goals for 2024. We also pretty soon here have some M&A activity that we'll introduce to the org. So next year will be a super, super exciting year for us. And, we're going to need everyone to kind of be giving 100%. So I think we will be continuing to invest, I think, in culture and in people in the way that we have historically, because I think it's critical to get everyone there.
I love that. So I keep hearing the theme of people and how we can really make them feel bought into the mission and vision. So I want to dig a little bit deeper because your people team can really make or break whether you're going to be a top startup to watch, whether you're going to come across as really purpose driven and such. Like they are the people that power the organization. So would love to kind of hear your all's thoughts on how do you best support your people and how do we help them feel really tied to that vision? Especially knowing that a lot of times, it might not be as clear cut. Would love to just dig into strategies on how to support our people, our leaders, our people managers, all of that, and making sure that they're really tied to the vision. Alexandra, I'm going to go to you first this time.
And I think our perspective is probably really unique. We're in office 5 days a week, so where there's a lot of hybrid and remote. We're here. We have a physical hardware product. So because of that, our culture is kind of centered around that. Even though as a people leader, I obviously could do my job remotely, we're all sort of here and have the benefit of walking up to someone, learning from someone, chit chat at lunch, etc. But in general, I think we've really kind of centered our culture around our values, which of course spell PATH, so everyone can remember them. I think that's just like a big piece of it, and just trying to also educate people around what it means to be at a startup, like I mentioned a little earlier, and just what does that mean? How is that different? That's not something that's as prevalent here in Ohio. I think we also just have kind of leaned into the uniqueness of our niche as a robotic welding company. So there are plenty of people that come from a traditional software background, or like myself, I was at very consumer products the rest of my career, and we offer things like weld school for everyone. So you're really seeing how hard it is, seeing the pain point. I have an awesome picture of myself welding, which I am a New Yorker, never thought I would ever have the pleasure of doing. But really, it's just cool that even as a head of people, we really try to offer welding school for all new employees to really immerse ourselves and understand the product. We do a lot of demos, etc. And I think that really helps, again, keep us connected to the mission, keep us supporting our people. So that's kind of like our unique things. But I think overall, at kind of a zoomed out level, it's making sure that people feel the impact of what they're doing. That's like the most important thing. That's why this panel is so important to me. That's kind of like at the core of every people program that we're building, is how we connect people's connection to the impact of the work that they're doing, whether it's on the entire manufacturing industry or even their little piece of the product that they're working on. And that's something we celebrate with Impact Awards quarterly, and other ways to recognize our people to connect that back for them.
I love that. I love the welding school too. That is such a unique idea. And I think really helpful, because I can't imagine that's easy. So definitely that seems like a really great way.
I'm terrible at it, just in full transparency. So not getting called in, but did go through it.
But you feel the impact, and I think that's a really, really cool approach there. Julia, I'll kick it over to you next.
Yeah, no, I think what Alexandra is saying about people feeling their impact is huge. And I think for us, I think at the root of this really coming to life, it is about building trust with our employees. Everyone has a seat at the table here, and that is genuinely true. We have a very transparent culture, and a complete open door policy to leadership. Our CEO, our entire leadership team can be pulled into anything when the team has ideas or needs help. And I think that there's been a huge culture of trust created. We trust people to do good work, and they know their opinions are valued. And I think people are empowered in result to really take ownership and execute. And when you're a small team that really relies on every single person to deliver good work, I think you really need the team to not only feel that they have autonomy to make decisions and execute, but actually create an environment where they really actually do have autonomy and ability to make decisions. And I think that trust, I've seen people really blossom with being in an environment where they know they're trusted to do their job well.
I love that. Always a huge proponent of trust, Julia. So appreciate you touching on that. Alex, I'll kick it over to you to close things out on this question.
Yeah, and we are a remote team, so you don't have that water cooler talk, which is so nice to have in an in-office environment. It also leaves you a little bit, as a leader of the company, kind of questioning, are people doing okay? What is the pulse on what's going on? I think some of the things that we try to do to just keep our mission tied into the business is, in our weekly huddle that the team has, we have like a kudos award that goes to somebody who's displaying the values of Boone in that given week. And so one thing that we've always been since day one, I kind of stole it from Jeff Bezos, but his whole thing was being around customer obsessed. At Boone, it's kind of the 3 C's obsessed, where we have our customers, our clients, which are the end users, and then our coaches. So delivering value to all of those different audiences kind of stays front and center for our entire organization. And then, I think something that is uniquely inherent in our business model is that all of our employees have access to Boone's personal and professional coaching. It's something that we encourage for the employees at Boone to be able to use on a consistent basis. And then we try to weave in whatever pertinent professional development related topics we're hearing about from our customers on a consistent basis. We try to weave that back into our own organization, because we kind of have an inside look into what the biggest challenges are that people are dealing with. and then we have an opportunity to kind of weave that into our own organization. But I think it just becomes that much more important when you're a remote team and having that connection, which becomes all that much harder.
Yeah, no, for sure. I appreciate you definitely addressing the remote side of things, because it does make things a little bit more challenging, but love the intentionality that you talked about there. Perfect. Well, thank you guys for kind of talking through the people piece. I'm sure it will likely come up a few more times. One thing that I feel like we've kind of commented on a few times, that I'd like to dig into a little bit more. So, growth is definitely a key indicator of a top company to watch, and it's really important. But I want to talk a little bit about how we do it sustainably. I think especially given the last few years, a lot of outside factors have impacted some different organizations. So just really curious on your all's end is how do you grow while growing sustainably and not having to backtrack in the future? Julia, do you want to share any thoughts here to start?
Yeah. Well, there are so many things that go into this. I think a huge part of it really is, I think there are two things that come to mind most presently. One is, I think, how you motivate the team and drive incentive to kind of deliver and perform and grow. And one of those, one of the things that goes into that is we've definitely developed a very, very clear career pathing framework for how people can actually grow here. How you level up, what goes into the skill development that's needed to do so, and really made it very, very clear what's kind of expected for people to grow here. And I think it has given people tools and kind of a path to look at that keeps them motivated and actually really allows them to set goals that are directly tied to skill development and kind of getting there. And so that I do think has been huge over the last kind of year and a half after we introduced that. Really, almost 2 years now. Weird. And I think aside from that, it's from a high level business perspective, I think it's really making sure that you're doing everything you can to make sure that you're kind of taking advantage of and really kind of intelligently approaching how you hire and really the cost of hiring and where you do that, and making sure that when it comes to efficiency and kind of what you're getting out of your teams and what you're spending to do that, much less related to the more fluffy people side of the business, but I think is very real that a lot of people are thinking about now when it comes to cost of talent and hiring. And so I think making sure you can be really smart about where you kind of implement alternative sort of hiring strategies and where you gotta spend the money and it'll pay off. So I think getting really strategic about how you hire, how you grow from a headcount perspective specifically.
Yeah, I completely agree. The people part is definitely one of the biggest elements there. Thank you, Julia. Alexandra, I'll kick it over to you next.
Yeah, I loved a lot of what you said. And I think just thinking about our people growth levels is like a really awesome way that we've seen be really helpful, especially early on at our startup. We implemented that just so it was clear and we had a way to sort of speak about growth and learning new skills. And I think I'm an add-on, which I'm sure you're doing as well, Julia, is just creating a separate career track for individual contributors to move up and gain new skills. I think often at early startups or all companies, like you kind of force your best people into manager roles and they don't necessarily want to be managers. So I think that was something we were really intentional about early on, is sort of making sure we have distinct tracks for people who want to be solving more technical or business problems versus people who want to be really focused on the people problems and take on managerial roles. So I think that was something that, in addition, that we have been doing. And I think in general, just around sustainable growth, we're just really thinking about focus and prioritizing projects. So that's just been the biggest thing. I think I wish we had a much more robust workforce planning strategy that I could show you all this hidden secret. I think we're all navigating that in the best way we can. But in general, we're just trying to really understand what our business needs to deliver and what skills are needed before jumping into a bunch of hiring. So that's sort of been our secret sauce.
I love that. And I've always really admired your kind of different promotional tracks, that they're not necessarily all focused on people management. So really like that you're working to different people's skills and creating them opportunity to advance there, Alexandra. Alex, I'll kick things over to you to close us out on this question.
Yeah, I think the only thing that hasn't been mentioned, which I love both your insights on this, I think just around performance management in general, we've seen a lot of evolution in this area in the last few years. And I think going away from this idea of, having formal end of year performance reviews where you're kind of getting your once a year feedback from a manager or senior level person, and then it's just kind of a one and done, and then you're kind of back into the wild until 365 days later. We're seeing more consistent one-on-one scheduled, especially in a remote environment where you don't have that opportunity to consistently talk to your colleagues. So consistent one-on-ones, having more of a wholesome conversation between individual contributors and their managers, where managers are being tasked with more of that EQ element of the managerial position of how can I support my team personally and professionally. And really making sure that those managers feel equipped to have those conversations and to be able to deliver transparent feedback on a consistent basis. So we're really seeing that the idea of more informal feedback more consistently has been a huge theme that we're seeing along this career path journey, which we feel like is a really good move in the right direction. It's just, how do you arm those managers with the tools that they need to be that emotional support system that maybe they didn't have to be 5 years ago?
I love that. I'm a huge fan.
What both you guys just brought up is huge. One, Alexandra, not putting people in management that shouldn't be in management, period, and making sure they have a path for growth. But Alex, for sure, I think making sure that those people have the right tools and that they're executing on it in a way that, may be different from something that have had to do in the past, and that you want aligned with the business and your values. I think that they're really key to making all this work.
I love that. Yeah, and I'm a huge fan of like one-on-ones too as well. I think that time with your manager to just kind of check in is really valuable. And love the approach to EQ and personal and professional life, because as much as we try to keep balance, one bleeds into the other when things are going well or not well. And I think it's definitely something we have to be aware of and understanding and empathetic with, for sure. Cool. Thank you all. So we did have a question from an audience member, Sean. He's asking about measuring remote teams' internal engagement. How do you guys do that? What's some of the best communication practices? So Alex, I'll start with you, then we'll go to Julia, and then Alexandra, we would still love to hear thoughts on your end from an in-person perspective as well. But Alex, I'll kick it to you first.
Yeah, we've seen a few different ways of doing this. I mean, one, when we've worked with our customers, a lot of them have, I mentioned this earlier, but a lot of them have thought of Boon as their pulse, as their engagement survey for their employees. It's kind of your inherent what is going on in the business sort of thing. So we're able to get a lot of that data inherently through our coaching, but several of our customers are also working with there are several learning management system platforms out there like 15Five, Lattice. There's several others, but they're serving as more of a kind of true pulse survey, engagement survey tool, where sometimes they have one-on-one templates embedded in them. But the idea is that you have either a monthly or a quarterly or biannual pulse survey that you can send out to your team, and it will be a 10 question or 50 question questionnaire around how are you doing and do you feel supported, all of those questions around engagement. So we've seen different cadences work well. Generally speaking, we've seen these as more of a software solution where you pay a subscription to that. But I think even in line with the way that I was talking about performance management and the way that that's changing, I think the way that folks are measuring internal engagement also needs to change in this post-hybrid or post-COVID world, where there's a whole picture of stuff that employees need to be thought of. It's not just traditional engagement. It's how am I being supported personally and professionally? This whole idea of the whole human. How is that sort of stuff coming through in an engagement survey? So we're seeing a lot of evolution in that space right now, but a few different ways of looking at it.
Awesome. Thanks so much for sharing there, Alex. Julia, I'll kick it over to you.
Yeah. I think we do this in a few different ways, and create some reporting around it. And we do have a somewhat hybrid environment. We do have a New York office, and I'm in that office now, but majority of our team is remote, and so we have to tailor everything we do, and all our engagement strategy to remote first in the way that we think about things. And I would say that we do this in a couple different ways. Lattice we do use, and I think one of the things that we really see, one-on-ones that happen regularly all week with everyone, you have the ability for those to be incredibly collaborative. Your manager is not the only person that puts stuff on there, and then they can. And I think we look at how often and how frequent is it that people are really engaging with their one-on-ones and adding topics to talk about or questions or feedback that they have. And we get a little bit of that there. And oftentimes it is a pretty interesting read of how much people are really kind of thinking about what to bring up, how to communicate, all those things. But we also, we have a lot that we do for ERGs and groups internally. Everything from like silly stuff like a foodies channel to things that are much more traditionally ERG for all the women on the team and all the people of color on our team. And there's lots of different groups that have like-minded interests and celebrate cultural things together. And I think we pull a lot of engagement on those to see how much people are really kind of interested and engaged just to connect. And I think the remote world is really interesting when you start digging into some of that data around why and the people that maybe aren't as engaged and not also conflating engagement with certain things with engagement with work and output and productivity. And so I think we try and pull a lot of the things we do for people to connect and engage, both on a kind of personal level as well as on a professional level, and find areas where things correlate or where you see trends. And then we put together kind of plans on how we might approach the people that are a little bit less engaged and see if there are other things that will kind of create a little bit of that for them.
Love that. Love the separation too there on kind of looking at personally and professionally on that side of things. Alexandra, I'll let you kind of chime in more on the in-office. It's definitely a little bit different than remote, but still, I'm sure a lot of common themes.
Yeah, it's been interesting almost adapting from remote back to office, which I imagine a lot of companies are starting to deal with as they encourage more people to come in. Because even though we were all located here in Columbus, Ohio, obviously during COVID, we weren't coming into the office. So we had these like really engaging all hands meetings. And then the chat was going and we had emojis and people were so inspired. And then it's actually really taken a lot of training and a lot of fine tuning to get our all hands to feel as engaging and interactive in person, which is funny because you might be thinking if only we were all in person, it would be so much easier. And actually we found it to be really challenging adapting the other way. So in addition to like, we use 15.5, I think in the traditional sense, not only we do a quarterly engagement survey to keep a pulse on, in particular, like kind of the different actions we can take to continue to improve our employees' engagement and also for the leadership team to keep doing better. But I think something that's also come out of that is really just leaning into kind of the trust that you alluded to earlier, Julia, and just how important that is both ways, and just trying to live into our value of transparency. And with that, having AMAs with leadership team or Ask Me Anything with leadership team, and really just providing that in-office opportunity to just ask our founder question, anyone on our executive team questions, to really understand the business, the product, the direction of the company, etc. And kind of we sort of measure like the types of questions we get, etc., in more of a qualitative way on how engaged and kind of motivated people are here at Path.
I love that.
Alexandra, I'm curious, being somebody who's gone from remote to in office, have you guys been able to measure the difference in engagement from like a score percentage being remote versus in person?
It's so there are too many variables to have an actual, this is the thing that's different. It's been the most noticeable really in our all hands meetings because people were just constantly chiming in on the chat. And then when you're just speaking to an audience, obviously we've actually talked about, should we have people hold up emojis to like feel the interaction, just because it was such a stark change. But I mean, we grew so much throughout the pandemic, similar to, it sounds like your all's time frame. So so much changed in the course of our business, our company size, etc. So I don't think there's any one thing that we're able to like pinpoint as a direct score change as coming in person. There's definitely pros in terms of being able to learn from the smart people around you, walk up to someone, new hires their first day. We have lunch waiting for them. Our team is really intentional about sitting in the cafeteria, having lunch together. And that's just like an awesome in-person benefit where you get to learn the personal side as well as pick people's brains on a professional side, which obviously these are immeasurable things, but things that I think for a lot of people we truly value.
Love that. Love all the engagement talk there. I think too, the one-on-ones, like building those really meaningful relationships, I think is really powerful, and just like building that trust and that transparency where especially an employee can really come forward too if they're not feeling as engaged, if they're struggling on their end. So really love that, and love the emojis, Alexandra. There's just something about them that makes a huge impact for sure. Perfect. So we have another question from Joe in the chat. He's sharing that I know that hiring has been discussed briefly, but how do organizations like yours that are so purpose-driven measure your candidates' level of understanding of that purpose during hiring process? So how do we make sure that they're really getting the purpose and the mission that we are setting out to achieve, and that's going to be something that they really value, that they can really tie into? Julia, I'll kick it to you first here.
Yeah. I think this one is something that, when it comes to reading whether someone is kind of culturally aligned with us, aligned with our values, I think a lot of this comes from, how much you hear, it's a lot of the stuff that comes into behavioral interviewing in some ways, where getting a sense for why they've made the transitions they've made in their career. How have they made decisions, and how do they kind of look at their own growth and what motivates them, and understanding kind of where some of that intrinsic motivation comes from, what matters to them. We want to make sure that some of those things are aligned with us. I think also making sure that the people that we hire onto the team communicate and express themselves in a way that really aligns with the way we speak and communicate to each other here, with respect and very open-minded and very overall shows that they're a good human, and so we really have a pulse on the way that people communicate, and I think on top of that, making sure that, when it comes to what people care about, and when you really directly talk about what they're looking for and, what they kind of pinpoint in the places they go, you really want to see, I think, a lot of people themes come out in that. They need to care about their own growth and be motivated, but I think also people that really care about who they surround themselves with and who they're going to work with. And, a lot of those themes coming out and how they partner, I think shows how connected they are to wanting to be in a culture that aligns with us.
Love that. Thanks for sharing, Julia. Alex, I'll kick it over to you.
Yeah, I think one thing that I always do, I've interviewed every coach who has come on to our platform, and something that I always ask them is just, what was it that stuck out to you about Boon? Because there's a lot of coaching platforms that are out there. Some of them are, mental health oriented coaching platforms. Some of them are more executive coaching. And so I always like to get a sense of like, what was it about Boon's value prop that resonated with you? And so, our idea of being this intersection between mental health and professional growth, I have found to be very unique in terms of the way we're coming to market. And that's the first thing that I want to make sure there's alignment on. So I ask that of our coaches. I ask that in every interview for our employees, like, what was it that brought you to Boon? And I think naturally we're in an industry where a lot of the people who are coming to Boon in the first place, there is some sort of personal or professional tie to why they would want to join a business like this, where they've had their own growth journey, where they feel tied to something like this. So I think it's a little bit inherent in that sort of setting, but similar to what Julia is saying, being able to speak to some of our values as a company and kind of pinpoint, is this going to be a good fit in terms of not just the overall value prop of the organization, but also what are the specific values that we really hold close and near and dear, and how is that going to tie into you as a potential fit?
Love that. Thanks for sharing, Alex. Alexandra, I'll let you close out there.
Yeah, I'd probably echo sort of the general theme that you both mentioned of, I mean, we do a pretty explicit values alignment interview, just asking situational behavioral questions that align to our values. But I think also the thing that I think that we do is we're just really transparent with what the culture is and what you can expect. In a very direct way. So we're not sugarcoating, we're not overselling or overpromising. We almost try to really highlight all the challenges and what you might not like about Path, so that you're kind of coming in really eyes wide open as much as possible. Like, this is not for everyone, and we would really love our interview process to tease that out on both ends as early as possible. So that's just something that we try to be extremely intentional about.
I love that. I think transparency is really key in all aspects. So really appreciate that approach that you all take. So we've got about 10 minutes left. If anyone else has any other questions, feel free to throw them in. Otherwise, I've just kind of got two that I'm focusing on for our panelists to close out on. The first one, this is just something that I really love asking is, why do you believe that the employees that do join your team, why do they choose to join the team? And B, why do they then stick around? So speaking more to the job seekers in the audience here on this one. But yeah, would love to hear your all's thoughts on that. Alexandra, can I throw it back to you?
Sure. This is my favorite question. I mean, I've been at Path for 3.5 years, no manufacturing or automation background prior. And so I think about this for myself, but this is the question when I do employee engagement interviews with people or stay interviews, sitting in the lunchroom with people. I always am asking this question. And the two answers I hear all the time are, number one, the people, the smart people, the learning. You want to be surrounded. It's cliche, but you want to be surrounded with smart people who you can learn from, who will challenge you. And I think Path has done a great job of attracting really smart people in very different industries where you have a lot of opportunity to get exposure to skills that you wouldn't have learned elsewhere. And the second biggest thing that we hear is the incredibly hard challenge that we're solving. So, like I said, we are trying to add human level intelligence to robots. And I think it's really awesome that we are using a lot of the most cutting edge technology to save sort of an antiquated industry. So I think that is tying it all back to the mission, to the purpose. But even if you're not exposed to that and you're on our people team, it's just tackling really hard challenges that have never been solved before. And that's really what it is for almost all of our employees.
Love that. And appreciate your love of that question, Alexandra. It's also one of my favorites. Julia, I'll kick it over to you.
Yeah, I think here, almost every single person would probably answer they're here and they decided to join because of the people and the culture. You will hear it throughout the interview process and you will hear it internally here. We have embedded in one of our values, we have a very strict no asshole policy. It has proven us very, very well in the way we've hired and the way that expectations are set for how people kind of connect themselves and operate here. And I think people really genuinely love the people they work with, and I think it has kept people here. I think they feel really safe and supported. Ability to make an impact and have real ownership is probably number two. You really do. There's full ownership of the work that you do, and every person here actually has a pretty sizable impact on the direction of the business. So a lot of people have come over from notable big tech companies and other environments because they know they're going to get that. And then growth opportunity. There's a genuine opportunity for growth in almost every area of the business. And, I think it keeps people here.
I love that. So many good things. I've got so many little words written and circled on my paper. Alex, I'll let you close us out here.
Yeah, I mean, I echo everything that you both just said. I think for me, starting Boone was kind of the result of my own previous work experience, being super burnt out, getting access to personal professional resources, and having that be a really transformational experience. So that was how the whole business started for me. And I'm just finding that more and more people have their own version of that story. So, again, Boone is I think a particularly easy story to be able to see how you can have an emotional tie to it. So I think we inherently have that in our business model. And then, it's interesting whenever I talk to our coaches that we're bringing on board and I ask them how they got into coaching in the first place, you constantly hear this story around, well, I've been informally coaching my entire career. And whether I was a former HR leader or L&D leader or C-suite exec, it's like, well, I feel like I've been coaching for 30 years informally, and I just decided to go get a certification. So, you have that inherent tie to just helping people and wanting to make the world a better place. And I think once you come on board at Boone, I think we do a really unique job of making each person on the team feel the impact that they are having every single day. We see the testimonials that are coming through every day. We see all of the impact that we're seeing across our customer base in a really tangible way. And I think that really, it really just has an impact on the people who are working here. So yeah.
I love that. So to recap, these are really important things: people, culture, impact. I actually wrote that one twice. Purpose, helping, all tying in there. Ownership, growth. So for those of you out there building top purpose-driven companies, those are some solid tips there.
Love that.
Perfect. So we're going to just close things out. I'd love for each of you to just share, how can folks keep tabs or stay up to date on your company, whether it's following the company on LinkedIn, following yourself, subscribing to a newsletter, give a shout out if there are open jobs right now. So yeah, Julia, I will let you go first here.
Yeah. I mean, definitely follow us on LinkedIn. If you are a job seeker yourself, not even a plug for Rocket Reach, but you can use the product for free, and it's a huge way. If you're a candidate and you're applying to jobs, absolutely find a couple hiring managers that are potentially the hiring managers for that role and reach out to them directly. And you can use Rocket Reach to do that. We have a lot of people that are searching for jobs that use it for that reason, and it's super effective. But I would keep a look at our careers page next year and in Q1. We are hiring a senior product marketing manager at the moment, and looking to do that ASAP. So that's one role that's open, but otherwise keep a lookout. We will have stuff there.
Awesome. Thanks, Julia. Alexandra?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I would say LinkedIn is the best way. We're really intentional with that platform, just posting updates about our company. And also, as I mentioned, we're all local in Columbus. So we worked with Purpose Jobs and try to attend some events, but definitely are thinking through ways to sort of showcase our cool robots and facility here locally. So stay tuned for that in 2024.
Awesome. Thanks, Alexandra. All right, Alex, you can close us out again.
Yeah, LinkedIn is probably our biggest platform. So you can follow either a company page, or I try to post stuff every so often. I think I have a live video going on my LinkedIn page right now. But yeah, check out our LinkedIn, and if you want to learn more about Boone, it's just boone-health.com. If you're an employer, feel free to learn more. And if you're an individual who's looking for coaching, you can actually sign up right there to do individual coaching. So yeah, LinkedIn and our website.
Love that. And we'll be sending out an email to all of our registrants with those links, and can pop them onto the event landing page as well, just so you guys all have that. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining, everyone. We really appreciate your time. We are really grateful to have you as a member of the community. To keep up to date on Purpose Jobs, feel free to subscribe to our newsletter at purpose.jobs/news. And if you're Detroit-based, we have a happy hour next Tuesday, and would love to see you there. So otherwise,
Nice.
Thank you so much. And thank you to our panelists. And I hope everyone has a wonderful day.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Hannah.
This is great.